warm welcome to Congressman Joe Sestak.
Thanks, Jared, very much. I feel very much at home here. My sister went to Carnegie Mellon, one of my 6 sisters. And as you all know, this university was originally laid out like a ship. And in fact, on top of Roberts Hall, the brow of the USS Pennsylvania sits there. I really feel at home. But today, the American economy, which Carnegie Mellon has done so much to contribute to, stands at a tipping point. We face a critical moment with some tough choices ahead. And a lot obviously depends on the choice that we decide to take. Our economy has stopped contracting, but it is not yet booming again. Large businesses with big cash reserves are holding off on hiring. Large corporations are still shipping jobs overseas because misguided incentives and tax loopholes actually encourage them to do so. There are those who have access to the resources and capital needed to expand again, but they're reluctant to take action for a variety of reasons, including because they're unsure of future government policies. Small businesses, on the other hand, are still struggling to make ends meet. They're eager to move ahead, but they're finding it difficult to get credit, and as a result, it's tough to hire new workers and invest in the future. Recent reports tell us our economy is growing at a slower rate as job creation remains below the levels needed for a strong market. Small businesses are not yet creating jobs, and big businesses aren't yet investing in large workforce growth. But in addressing these challenges, we need to move forward, not back, to the policies that caused this to happen. The challenges of the last 2 years have demanded practical solutions and courageous leadership, not intellectual arguments. 10 million people have lost their jobs and are looking for work, including 600,000 right here in Pennsylvania. Too many Americans have seen their hard-earned economic security gambled away on Wall Street. Their savings have been wiped out, while bailed-out executives took home $1.6 billion in taxpayer bonuses. People remain frustrated, and they're right to be skeptical. In this Senate election, they're looking for practical solutions to put people back to work and to grow our economy again. They want to know which candidate has what it takes to lead us best in this recovery. And the choice is clear. Are we satisfied with the policies that got us into this mess? Or are we willing to make some tough decisions, to roll up our sleeves and work hard to get our country moving on the right course? At its core, this is a question not only of policy, but of values. My values are grounded right here in Pennsylvania. I'm the grandson of a steelworker and the son of a Navy captain who instilled the importance of hard work, like here in Pittsburgh. My mother is a retired school teacher who taught my brother, my 6 sisters, and me what it means to work together in the service of others and be willing to compromise except on one's principles. That's the practical approach I've developed throughout my life of public service. It's why I joined the military during the Vietnam era, followed in my father's footsteps at the Naval Academy, and went on to serve for 31 years at sea, at the White House, and in the Pentagon. The military produces practical leaders who produce and seek practical solutions. It's also why, since I came to Congress, I've kept my office, as mentioned, open 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, and have handled, as mentioned by you, Jarrett, 4 times as many cases as the average congressional office. The principles I learned in the Navy, that is, to focus on the sailors, who then took care of our nation, now keep me focused on the needs of the working families who take care of this country. I've dedicated my life to serving my country, and that's the reason I'm running for U.S. Senate. This isn't about politics as usual. It's about solving problems, our problems, together. My opponent has a very different approach, based on a different set of values. Before he went to Washington, Congressman Toomey made a fortune on Wall Street and worked for a billionaire in Hong Kong. He became an expert on currency swaps. Then he went to the House of Representatives, where he supported and even helped shape the legislation that dismantled the common sense regulations that kept Wall Street from gambling, playing roulette with our savings. He left Congress to lead the Club for Growth, a special interest group that lobbies for Wall Street, and spent millions to force moderates out of the Republican Party. I applaud Congressman Toomey's financial success, but his record proves that he's driven by a rigid mindset, extreme both in its philosophy and its practice, that brooks no dissent. It is one that doesn't seem to care about working Pennsylvanians, about us. In a book he wrote last year, my opponent called Foreign Export Subsidies a gift to American consumers, even though they help create jobs in countries like China and cause, in his words, obvious, concentrated job losses here at home in Pennsylvania. When Congressman Toomey talks about his policies, he likes to use a lot of code words and intellectual arguments. When he talks about creative destruction, for example, it seems like he means job destruction without a lot of job creation. These ideas might make for interesting theoretical debates for him. But we are talking about real people, real jobs, and real lives being destroyed. We've seen plenty of my opponents' creative destruction right here in Pittsburgh, where many factories and steel mills have been forced to shut down. Thousands have lost their jobs. In reaction, Congressman Toomey wrote about the impact of his economic policies by noting that the failing companies understandably evoke our sympathy and make the front pages of our newspapers. He seems to miss the human cost of his callous policies. And he offers no solutions to protect people's livelihoods except to say that the plight of working families is worth a serious discussion. Meanwhile, he said he wants corporate taxes eliminated. So while our taxes go up, companies like BP, Halliburton, and Monsanto pay absolutely nothing. Big companies don't deserve another unpaid for tax break. And working families don't need another discussion. We need real practical solutions for them. I know job creation must be the urgent and unified mission of this country, just as much as any war abroad. When it comes to economic policies, we must be blind, absolutely blind, to political calculations and do what is best for this nation as a whole. But on this subject, more than any other, my opponent's extreme record is crystal clear. In Washington, he actively undermined the safeguards that kept our financial system secure since the Great Depression, all in the name of bigger tax breaks and wider profit margins for the richest of the rich. $43 billion in incentives for companies that ship jobs overseas. Massive spending that turned a record surplus into record deficits. the majority of which went directly to tax breaks for the super rich. The interest payments just on the debt that was accumulated by the impact of the Toomey-Bush policies alone account for more than half of the deficit in 2019. Just the interest on their unpaid for breaks for the wealthy. And less regulation for banks that became so massive they posed a systemic risk to our economy as a whole. These reckless policies were too much for our system to bear. And finally, about 2 years ago, the whole house of cards came crashing down. That is Congressman Toomey's unfortunate legacy. And yet his ideology has pushed him to take things even further. He's fighting for no regulation on Wall Street, even as he tries to take the security out of Social Security, privatizing this essential program and risking people's retirement savings in the stock market. Congressman Toomey has said this will help workers accumulate wealth. But the only ones who get wealth security under his plan are the Wall Street brokers who get to charge billions in new fees. Besides, the Social Security program isn't supposed to be a risky get-rich-quick scheme. It's a safety net, a guaranteed baseline of retirement income that people can rely upon, no matter what happens to the broader economy, no matter how bad things get on the stock market. My opponent's plan would eliminate this safety net and allow Wall Street to gamble with our retirement savings. At the same time, he's pushing for even more deregulation to keep the referee off the field of Wall Street that could or might look after our interests. Under the proposal Congressman Toomey supported, a senior retired in October 2008 would have lost $26,000 almost overnight, just as they retired. So much for security. We can't afford to let this happen. Wall Street brokers aren't going to stand up for people if their savings get wiped out. That's why we need to preserve, not privatize, this important program and make sure we can provide full benefits for generations to come.